All right, we're gonna take a look at creating a new Unity game and then importing it into GitHub again. So what we're gonna end up doing is we're gonna go first to Unity and do new for the game. Then we have GitHub Desktop, which we want to commit that through. And then we'll be able to see the repository in our GitHub account. So there are some things to consider about doing this. One, the best practice can be something like create a new repository in GitHub and just do everything from scratch there. And you would want to say, let's make sure we have that Unity ignore file in place, commit that, and then you can do a new game here and put it into that folder. And then the git ignore will basically ignore the big files and the problem files that we'll run into. But it's also really common to have just created your own game that you need to import. And this is sort of resolving one of the homework issues. So I'm going to do new. And in new, I'm just going to pick a new 3D game. I'm not going to really do too much to it. I'm just going to call it test Unity. I'll create test Unity. So this is going to create test Unity in the common location for where we put where Unity is defaulting like games and things. And it takes a little bit of time to do to get it rolling. But once it actually is created and loaded, we're ready to do the GitHub portion. So that will be, it'll still take a little bit of time. So we'll take a look here. Actually, I didn't do too bad. So I'm going to say, save project. So we like saving that. So that's pretty much it. Like you can do whatever you want, save your project, and you're good to go. So I'm going to quit out of here. And then back in Unity Hub, so let me open that back up. Unity Hub. Yeah, that was a nice special one, right? Unity Hub has decided to close. So we'll just open it again. There we go. Here's Unity Hub. And we have test Unity. Oh, I just opened it. What I wanted to do was just look at the location of the directory. So let's go back to Unity Hub. And you'll see here that it's got its version information. And it says documents GitHub test Unity. So we are storing this in the GitHub folder, which is good news in general. But what we got to do now is that we have this new project. I'm going to close it. All right, there we go. So now we're going to try to figure out how to bring this in. And the problem really is that it needs to know to ignore the files. So normally you would say, hey, I want to do a new repository. I want to add a local repository and then tell it what it is. But what's happening is the git ignore file is like it's like committing in all the files that weren't handled by the git. Like it's supposed to ignore big files that are useless. So what we need to do is get a copy of it. So if we do Unity git ignore into the Google space, we'll be able to find the official ignore file for Unity. And what we want to do is save this one to our system. So we really want this file. So I'm clicking raw, and then I'm going to do file save page as, because it's going to be my git ignore file. What I need to do now is I need to go to that location. I need to find in my, say, documents, and then I go over to GitHub, and then I want to go to test Unity here, and where it says Unity gitignore.txt, we need to basically just call it git ignore with none of that. So there is a dot, that's really critical, .git ignore. So now I'm saving it to the project folder. So if I hit save there, names that begin with dot are reserved for the system. And the idea is, yes, it is reserved. We want to use it as an invisible file. And it put .text at the end of the name. All right, I'm going to go to show finder. And I'm going to go and look here. So it is an invisible file. So I need to show view options, group by name, sort. I need it to show all files. I got to find out where that actually is here. Come on, man. So it should be show path, show view options. This is something you have to figure out in Windows as well. So Mac OS show dot files, which are hidden files in Finder. I know it's in here somewhere. So Finder, open your Mac folder, Command Shift dot. All right, Command Shift dot. Oh, here it is. So that's the file, and I need to rename it, and it's not supposed to have that text file. It's supposed to be just .git ignore, just like that. There we go. Okay, so you gotta have that in there. Now, once ignore is in, it sort of precedes everything. So when you actually do create a repository and you try to bring it in, it should actually do this. So I'm gonna say I want to add a local repository. I'm going to go choose the path, and I'm going to go to test Unity. I think, let me just make sure it's just test Unity right there. If I hit open, let's make sure. Right, it says, hey, it doesn't appear to have a Git repository, right? It only has the ignore, it doesn't have the rest of the support material. So we're going to say, hey, let's create the repository instead. So it's called test Unity. I want to make sure it's not making it inside itself. So this is GitHub test Unity exactly. I don't want to use the README, but we do have the ignore file. So we actually already have one. So like if I really wanted to, I'd just say, oh, look, there's a Unity one. And you can pick a license. But right now we're just using none for it. You're just trying to get through this. So I'm going to create that. So here it goes. It's going to say, all right, we've got a new thing in here. It claims it's got a git ignore, and we're looking at that git ignore. We like all this stuff. And the question is, did I recreate the troubles or what's going on here, right? So do we have a history. It says initial commit. Looks like there's an initial commit, but it needs to follow the git ignore stuff. So I could do, I'm just going to say, is there anything else here? I'm going to say initial. No, there's nothing else here, right? It did it when it made it, when it did the first import. So hopefully we're in good shape, but I'm going to run publish. I'm going to call it test Unity. And here you can pick your own, or you can do social game engagement with XR, but I'm usually just saying none and bringing it to my own work area. And that's fine too. I just want to make sure in this case that you get it into your work area. So I'm going to hit publish. If the ignore file worked, and if the other details are in place, it should have just pushed it all the way forward. So now I'll like say history. These are all committed. Fetch, right? All of this stuff, all these things for your main branch. All of this is now working. So that's the normal way kind of importing the file. Fresh start for this new one, the DIY, like moving an old repo over. Okay. This one is going to be called test Unity DIY because it's you're making your own. Now I got to pay attention over here. Like, where is this thing stored? Well, I want it to be in the GitHub folder, not inside another project. And I want it to have a Unity ignore file. So this way, now if I'm looking carefully, these things should be in alignment with each other. So let me create the repository again. And then what we do next is we go up to show in Finder. So now if I show this in Finder, the path should be documents, GitHub, test Unity DIY. And then I have all of those nice, yummy Unity files there. So, okay, good. Now I need to go back, and I found a project that I want to import that's never been in GitHub before. So I need to move it from its sort of like experimental location. And I'm going to copy these files, and I'm just going to paste those files in here. So now you'll see it's running through the copy process. Right? So it's just going to zip, and it's going to move those forward. So this is like right here, we didn't have to go inside Unity. This was your own project. You created on your own, but it hadn't been put into GitHub yet. So this is the trick to doing it. So now that those files are copied over, you have a complete project. called Test Unity DIY. Okay, phew. All right, now we first want to make sure, can all this stuff get put into a commit and a collection of files that goes up to GitHub. So at GitHub, we just need to say, this is going to be the, we say Unity files added to project, right? That's what we did. And we're going to commit that to the main, which is the main folder, branch, etc. And to know this is working, we need to publish it. And we're just going to publish it to your own instead of somebody else's. Hit publish, and now you're going to have something called Test Unity DIY. So there we go. And it takes a little bit because it's sending the files out, but it should have followed all the ignores. So in theory, that's it. That's all you have to do to sort of turn in that earlier assignment. But to finish this process off is that you want to add it back into Unity so you can work on it. So I'm going to hit cancel out of that. So I'm going to go back to Unity Hub, and I'm going to say add an existing project, and it was called Test DIY. I'm going to open this up and look inside. Now it looks pretty good. So let's open up this project. Let's add it. So now I have it. It's designed for the current platform. I just did a few minutes ago. And so if I click here, I'll now be able to open it up. And I have to let it go through the process. And actually what you'll see down here, these are all files changing as it's loading. So I'm going to bring this, oops. So it did load. It's on my other monitor. So let me grab it and bring it over. So here it is. So we just brought this in. We just made a new everything. Now the most common thing you do is make new scenes. For instance, I want to make a new game area. So I'm going to make a new scene. It's called Untitled. So file new, and then I hit save, Command S or various things. But I'm going to say new test scene. Now, I would say this is where you're going to name things by your activity. So maybe it's Bayard mural, right? You got to come up with a naming convention for what is the scene, the activity that you're building. But yeah, let's do that. I'm going to save that right there. And then if I open up, let's see, open up the Finder, it should show me what's going on. Oh, you know what? This is all super full screen. So let me bring it out of full screen, and then we can now look at these things. So yeah, it made some new files just a few minutes ago, right? And that's the sort of stuff that we want to keep tracking. So what you do will be file, save, right? File, save project. You want to do this regularly because there are occasions when Unity crashes and you're in the middle of doing something. So make sure you save on a regular basis. It's a pretty good thing. The other part is major checkpoints. You want to go back out over to GitHub Desktop and you want to commit all those changes in. So we'd say added new scene. And the ability of this is the power of working with multiple people. You are telling each other what you're doing, what scenes you're working on, and communicating about how to, what's up, how to go. I worked on this, you worked on that kind of thing. So here, let me commit this to main. And now it'll say, all right, we got it. Though it says no local changes because we've got one commit coming up. So the commit is the bundle of changes. And we just sort of push it out to the origin. Now that it's going to be up here, you can watch it pushing out to origin. That's pretty cool. And, everything here should be in pretty good shape. If I hit play and I edit more, we should be in pretty good shape. Now, there's the play button and everything's fired up. So that's how to do your own custom one. And that's pretty much the deal. If you're having trouble and it's in that kind of, like it's not letting you commit in, you want to use this technique that I just described to get the project in. And then once it's in, it's pretty nice because every time you want to find out, hey, did somebody do something new, you find what project that you're working on. So it'll be something like a Burn seminar, 2020 FA. And then you're like, okay, well, anything new happen remotely? And you would just pick your project, and then you would say fetch from origin, and it'll get you all the latest. And then you come back into Unity and it'll have all those changes for you. So that should be it. That should keep this up really nice and working well. All right. Good luck, everyone.